After my stepdaughter's constant disrespect, I finally snapped and told her to ask her real dad for money. Now my wife says I crossed the line. Hello Reddit I plus here. When people talk about blended families, they usually sugarcoat it. They talk about bonus parents and extra love, but no one tells you about the silence at the dinner table, the slammed doors, the years of resentment simmering in the walls of your home. I've lived that silence for 12 years. I met Mara when I was 31. She was 28, a single mother with a little girl clinging to her leg like the world was out to take her away. That girl was Tessa, only 4 at the time. Mara had this warmth that drew me in immediately. She laughed easily, even though life hadn't been easy for her. She'd left her ex, Rick, after years of emotional manipulation and broken promises. He wasn't violent, but he had a way of making her feel like she was never enough, like her happiness was always negotiable. When we started dating, I thought the hardest part would be proving to Mara that I was different. But the truth, the hardest part, was proving it to Tessa. The first time I met her, she wouldn't even look at me. Mara crouched down beside her and said, "Honey, this is David. He's my friend." I knelt down, smiled, and said, "Hi, Tessa." She clutched Mara's leg tighter, her big eyes filled with suspicion. She didn't say a word. And in that moment I realized, if I wanted Mara, I had to earn her daughter too. The years passed, and things changed. Some for the better, some not at all. When Mara and I married, Tessa was 6. She wore a flower crown at our wedding, but she wouldn't smile in the pictures with me. Mara said she was shy. I tried to believe that. By the time she was 8, we had our son, Caleb. He was the easiest baby in the world, and Tessa adored him. That was the one thing we always shared, our love for him. She'd sit beside me while I rocked him to sleep, but she wouldn't talk to me. "Do you want to hold him?" I asked once. She shrugged. "Mom said I can." I placed Caleb in her arms, and for a moment, she lit up. She kissed his forehead, whispered something to him, then handed him back. Still, she didn't look at me, and that's how it always was. I was there, but not there. Paying for her school trips, her piano lessons, her volleyball uniforms, driving her to games, clapping in the stands, but she never clapped for me. By the time she turned 16, Tessa had mastered the art of dismissal. Every conversation was one word long. "How was school?" "Fine." "Hungry?" "No." "Want a ride to practice?" "Whatever." Her phone was glued to her hand. She started sneaking out, coming home smelling like alcohol. I grounded her, but grounding only fueled her defiance. She'd slam her door so hard the frames rattled. "David," Mara would say, touching my arm. "She doesn't mean it. She's just a teenager." But it never felt like just that. It felt personal. It happened on a Friday night. She was in her room, texting furiously, when I knocked on the door. "Tessa, phone check." Her reply was instant. "No." I opened the door. I wasn't asking. She rolled her eyes, shoved the phone under her pillow. "I'm not giving it to you. You're not my dad. Stop acting like you can tell me what to do." Her words sliced straight through me. "Tessa, just screw off," she shouted, standing up. "I'm tired of you pretending like you're my dad. You're not. You never will be." She stormed past me, slammed the bathroom door so hard a picture frame fell from the wall. I stood there, fists clenched, every ounce of patience I'd built up over the years crumbling. 2 days later, at breakfast, she asked casually, "Can you pay for a plane ticket? I want to visit Josh over in Indiana." Josh, the boyfriend she'd been texting at 2 in the morning. Normally I would have said yes, because Mara doesn't work, and Rick doesn't pay child support. But this time, something snapped. "Go ask your real dad," I said flatly. The room went still. Tessa froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. Then her face twisted, and her eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. She pushed her chair back and walked upstairs without a word. Mara stared at me, horrified. "David, you didn't." "I did," I admitted. She shook her head. "That was cruel." I snapped back. "Cruel is being treated like a doormat for 12 years. Cruel is paying for everything and still being told I'm nothing." Mara's voice softened, but it cut deeper than any shout. "She's a child, David. You're supposed to be the adult." I sat in silence that night, staring at the wall. I thought about every baseball game where I sat alone on the bleachers while Rick didn't even bother to show up. I thought about her crying on her birthday because he forgot to call, and yet I was the villain. Was I wrong? Maybe, but I was tired. Still, guilt ate at me. The next evening, I knocked on her door. "Tess?" I asked. "Can we talk?" A muffled, "Go away." I stepped inside anyway. She was curled up on her bed, her face buried in her pillow. I sat down on the edge of her bed. "I need to apologize." She didn't move. "I shouldn't have said that. I know I'm not your biological dad, but I need you to know I've always considered you my daughter. I love you, even when it feels like you hate me." Slowly she lifted her head. Her cheeks were streaked with tears. Then why doesn't he? She whispered. Why doesn't he love me? My heart broke. I pulled her into my arms, and for the first time she didn't pull away. She sobbed against my chest, her whole body shaking. What's wrong with me? Nothing, I whispered fiercely. Nothing at all. His failures aren't about you. You're enough, Tess. You always have been. That night, I told her I wouldn't check her phone anymore, that I'd find other ways to set boundaries. I also suggested therapy. She resisted at first, but eventually agreed. 2 weeks later, I drove her home from her second session. She was quiet most of the ride, staring out the window. When we pulled into the driveway, she paused. Thanks, Dad, she said softly. It was the first time she'd ever called me that. I sat there in stunned silence as she got out of the car. My chest ached. Not with pain this time, but with something dangerously close to hope. I don't pretend everything's perfect now. Tessa still rolls her eyes. She still gets moody. But she also laughs sometimes. She talks to me in short bursts instead of silence. She hasn't broken curfew in weeks. And every so often she calls me Dad. It's fragile, like glass. But it's real. For the first time in 12 years, I believe we're building something. Something worth every slammed door, every sleepless night, every moment I almost gave up. Because love isn't about blood. It's about showing up, even when you're unwanted, and maybe, finally, she sees that I'm not going anywhere. For a while, I let myself believe things were getting better. Therapy sessions seemed to open Tessa up little by little. She was less sharp-tongued at home, even sat with Caleb on the floor one night helping him with a Lego castle. Mara looked at me across the room, eyes glistening, and mouthed, "See? She's changing." And maybe she was. But deep down, I'd learned not to trust fragile peace. Not in this house. It started small. One Saturday morning, Tessa wandered into the kitchen while I was drinking coffee. She lingered by the counter, twisting a strand of hair around her finger. "Hey, Dad," she said, testing the word like it might break in her mouth. I raised my eyebrows. "What's up?" "So, the volleyball team is planning a trip this summer, out of state. A week-long tournament. And, well, Mom thought maybe you could cover the fee." There it was. A year ago, I would have said yes without blinking. But this time, something inside me paused. Not because I didn't want her to play. I'd gone to every game. But because I heard the shift in her tone, that careful sweetness she only put on when she wanted something. "Let me think about it," I said. Her face fell. "Think about it? You always pay for my stuff. That doesn't mean I always will," I said calmly. "Especially if respect is conditional." She scowled, muttered something under her breath, and stomped off. That night, Mara cornered me in our room. "David, what's going on? Why didn't you just agree to pay for her trip?" I looked at her carefully. "Because I'm tired of being treated like a bank account with legs. If she wants me to support her, she needs to treat me with respect all the time, not just when she needs money." Mara sighed. "She's 16. You know teenagers. They don't always show gratitude, but it doesn't mean she doesn't care." I shook my head. "No, she's old enough to know better. If she can manipulate her tone when she wants something, then she knows what she's doing." Mara frowned, arms crossed. "You're being harsh. You're supposed to be the adult here." "And I am," I said. "An adult who's finally drawing lines." A week later, it got worse. I came home from work to find Tessa and Mara waiting for me at the kitchen table, 2 sets of eyes staring at me like I was on trial. "Dad," Tessa started, almost too eagerly, "I know you've been upset with me, and I know I've made mistakes, but I've been really trying, haven't I, Mom?" Mara nodded. "She's been better, David." Tessa leaned forward. "So, I was hoping you could help me out with something. There's this summer program, an arts thing. It would look amazing on college applications. And it's expensive." I sat down slowly. "How expensive?" She slid a brochure across the table. "Nearly $3,000. I looked at both of them. "So, let me get this straight. You planned this together? Sat here waiting for me to walk in like I'm some kind of ATM?" Mara's face tightened. "It's not like that. It feels exactly like that," I said. Tessa's eyes filled with quick, practiced tears. "I knew you wouldn't care. You've never cared about me. You just pretend so you can look like the hero." Those words, they were too familiar. Almost word for word from fights Mara had told me about with Rick years ago. Manipulation dressed up as wounded innocence. And for the first time in 12 years, I didn't bite. I stood up, sliding the brochure back toward them. "If this program matters, then maybe your real dad can help pay for it. Or maybe you can fundraise. But don't look at me like I'm just here to sign checks." Mara's voice rose. "David, she's a child!" "You're supposed to support her dreams." "No," I said firmly. "I'm supposed to support this family, and I have. For 12 years, I've paid for everything, endured everything, tried everything. But I won't be manipulated anymore. Not by her, not by you. The silence that followed was heavy. Tessa pushed back her chair and stormed upstairs. Mara stared at me like I was a stranger. "Who even are you anymore?" she whispered. I took a deep breath. Someone who's finally had enough. I grabbed my jacket and walked out the door. For the first time in years, I let the night air fill my lungs without the weight of obligation pressing down on me. I didn't leave permanently. Not yet. Caleb still needed me, but I stopped saying yes to every request. I stopped bending over backwards to prove myself, and something strange happened. The less I gave in, the clearer the picture became. The fake tears, the guilt trips, the way Mara softened Tessa's blows instead of holding her accountable. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cruel. I was simply done. Maybe someday Tessa will see me for who I really was, the man who stayed when her real father didn't, or maybe she won't. But either way, I'll know I finally stood my ground. Because sometimes love isn't about sacrificing everything. Sometimes it's about knowing when to walk away.